Okay, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the very first edition of Conversations with Dr. Yamson this year. Um, we are very happy to have you here today. So for today's session, we are going to discuss the topic after the landslide victory, governance for reset in Ghana. So in last year, December 2024, we had an election. Ghana elected its new president. And from the results, you could see that the people of Ghana were ready for change. Even looking back to 2020, where the results came out, and you realize that even with the parliamentary seats, the winning government had equal numbers as the opposition. You could realize that the people were so ready for change, and eventually it happened in 2024. But of course, I know that we didn't go out there to vote just for things to remain as it is. We are all ready and looking forward to change. And the sitting government now has promised to reset the country. So I am sure we are all eager and waiting to really see that the country is reset. But how would a reset country or Ghana look like? And this is why we are having this webinar today. And as usual, led by Dr. Ishmael Yamson. So in the next 30 minutes, he's going to take us through a presentation. And then after that, we can come in and then add our comments and then our questions as such. So you can also leave your questions and comments in the chat whilst the presentation is ongoing. You can also raise your hand to be allowed to talk when he's done with his presentation. So, Dr. Yamson, thank you very much for having us as always. I'll leave it to him now.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure always to be with you and to share ideas together. As Winifred just said, we just had an election and we're all very excited going there to demonstrate that we're ready to make an important decision for the next 4 years. The outcome, which we all are aware of now, clearly demonstrated that the people were ready for a change of leadership in the country. But the significance of the results is more than just people wanting a change. I think it is significant also for the fact that the Ghanaian electorate is now becoming very self-conscious of what they want from any government. I often say that you can give the electorate everything you want, money, food, t-shirts, and everything, but when they enter the booth, they will exercise their rights as to whether they want the government to continue in office or not. This election showed that we can, ruling elite, the ruling class, our politicians cannot take the electorate for granted. And that, yes, you can promise them everything and anything, You can give them anything, but they will make a decision based on your performance and based on what they as individuals feel, or as families feel, or as businesses feel. So it is very significant. It's a major change in the way our electorate have behaved in the past. There was a little bit of a signal in 2020, but the results of last year's election shows clearly that we need to pay attention to the feelings of the electorate and whether or not we are meeting their expectations as the leadership of the country. So let us take a look at the state of our economy. And don't forget that the ruling government today campaigned on the theme resetting Ghana, building the country that we all want. But the emphasis there was building it together. But we are aware that we are in a period of very high levels of inflation. So many macroeconomic issues, really difficult issues. The currency depreciated and is still not very stable. Only last week, the central bank decided to raise its reference rate by 100 basis points, which means that the central bank is still not very sure that inflation will come down soon and that some action has to be taken to accelerate that. Of course, if you have a currency that is depreciating and interest rates which are high, automatically you would borrow at a much higher cost. We also have some urgent issues that we need to deal with. We still are faced with very high debt burden, which is still creating problem because under the fund arrangement, we can only borrow up to $250 million per annum. And for a country that is in need of spending money on capital expenditure, this is a major limitation. But of course, that should be the case because we already cannot service the debts that we are going through. The domestic debt exchange programs, we have rescheduled our debt payments with our creditors. And we still have major issues there. We still have, and because of that, we still have issues of investors because we need to have investors in the economy so that they can support the transformation of the economy. But we are talking about transforming the economy, but you need money to transform the economy apart from other factors. We still are faced with pervasive poverty and high levels of unemployment, especially the youth. And that is why we are witnessing large levels of migration of very highly skilled professionals from the country. And I must say that for me, that's one of the major issues facing Ghana for the future. Because you cannot build a country without a skilled workforce and skilled professionals. It's an issue that has to be confronted as quickly as possible. Our infrastructure, everybody knows, both economic infrastructure and our social infrastructure are broken. We haven't seen any major investment in either building new roads or hospitals or ports and harbors and hospitals uh, and all the things that we need to run the economy for a couple of years. And we have also not been able to even to maintain the ones that we have. And when the projects are started, they take many years to complete. Sometimes they are not completed at all. So there are major issues facing the economy. And therefore, when we talk about a reset, it's not just saying it, but there are very many major issues. But let me make one point before I move away from the state of the economy. We have to remember that resetting on the economy is not just a matter of macroeconomic stability. Ensuring macro stability is important, but there are many other things about our values, our behaviors, our governance practices. All those things have to be reset if we have to make progress. So let me just spend a little bit of time on how did we get here. I think today I know everybody in this country knows that we have got here because this country and its institutions have not been properly governed. So if I have to be very blunt, I will say we got here because of bad governance. And bad governance covers many, many areas. We can spend a lot of time on it, but let me just speak about just a few of them. The first one is about the whole issue of democracy. Indeed, sometimes we believe that once you win, you go to elections and you win. And this is very peculiar with the international community. They celebrate democracy because you've just gone through an election peacefully. But that's not democracy. That's not the end of it. Democracy means more than just joining a queue to go and exercise your vote. Democracy means good governance, making sure that people have food to eat, they have clothes, they have homes, there's no abuse of power, the leadership has a purpose, there's no corruption, there's no greed, there's no graft. So at the end of the election, then you come to the realization of democracy. Because if we all remember, democracy is a government by the people, of the people, for the people. So what have we seen in this country? We have been governed by people who haven't governed for us. They have governed for themselves. And the many, many cases of fraud and now we call it looting, the looting of government coffers. That's not democracy. Because when people are elected to govern a country, they have to govern in the best interest of all the people of the country. It's also been very common with Ghanaian political establishment that when one party is out of office, uh, everything that government did is thrown up overboard. So we don't have any policy consistency. If you are lucky for a government to stay for 8 years, uh, the policies will last for 8 years. But after that, uh, they change. And you see, we all have to understand that when you have such a culture of policy consistency, you are not going to excite any investor because today it is this, tomorrow it is that. And when people invest in your country, they invest for the very long term. And they want a policy framework that they can predict for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Not situation where policies will change because we don't like the government that was in power. But we have also not been very blessed with great leaders. Because, for any country, and I say this all the time, you look at every country in the world, always only one man has changed that country. You can go from Malaysia to Singapore to Dubai to Mauritius to South Africa to everywhere, including Europe. There's always one man. And therefore, the person who leads a country is very critical for the country's well-being. We say in Fanti, Sanam Boprowa or Profiliti. So when a fish is getting rotten, it starts from the head. If the head is rotten, the rest of the fish will be rotten. So we have not been so blessed. There's a story I always tell, but maybe let me share it if I have a little bit of time. But a story is told that Angel Gabriel was a little upset with God because he said God had been too generous with a country called Ghana, gold, bauxite. Now we have lithium, everything on that. And God said, don't worry, you can see the people I put there. So our problem has always been the people who have run this country. Ghana is not poor. Ghana has been poorly managed, poorly governed, and poorly served by the people in whose hands we have entrusted this country. So electing the right leadership and the leadership when in power being aware that they are there not for themselves, but they are there to serve the interest of the people who put them there is of very great importance. I always marvel when I hear many people talk about we the people's representatives. I say, yes, you say it for the sake of argument, but you don't live what you say. We have borrowed excessively and we have mismanaged this economy. I remember when the Ghana Beyond Aid was launched, I was personally very excited. And I thought, for once, there was a government with a clear purpose to get Ghana out of all these IMF bailouts that at the time we had gone for the 16th time. And nobody ever thought that we would go for the 17th time. Now we have been. Because of the clear mismanagement of the economy and excessive borrowing. And I know for a fact that no country in the world has ever borrowed itself out of poverty. And yet, the very month after Ghana Beyond Aid was launched, we went and borrowed about $2 billion. So we don't even match what we say with what we do. So for many years, this country has been very badly governed, very poorly governed. And it is time we began to rethink how we govern this country. So let me also just add that, of course, it is a fact that we have had external shocks. Started with the COVID-19, and COVID-19 was a shock to the whole world. But I don't accept that we can use COVID-19 to explain all the problems we have today. And every time the past government claimed that we are where we are because of COVID-19 and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I thought that was really not true. Because, yes, we had COVID, but we also had COVID support of over $1 billion. What did we do with the $1 billion? So why would we claim that because of COVID, we overborrowed? That was not true at all. But it's a fact that COVID disrupted, especially global supply chain, which led to higher freight prices, shortages of food supplies, because ships were not running, ports were closed, shops were closed, manufacturing houses were closed. So it affected everybody in the world. But that alone does not explain Ghana's peculiar situation where we so borrowed that we became insolvent. But there's a greater lesson that we need to learn from global shocks. The first one is that we have been over-dependent on rain-fed agriculture for many, many years. I mean, when I was a student of economics, we knew that Ghana needed to adopt irrigation to be able to produce food and commercial crops all year round. We still talk about it today. And in fact, today we have less land under irrigation than we had during Nkrumah's time. And I always wonder, I mean, if we know our population is growing and we know that we need food to need food to feed them, then we should do what we do. But as we sit here today, Ghana is the only country in Africa that depends most on food imports to feed its people. And that for me is a disgrace. We have the arable land with the people. Now there's a lot of technology for agriculture. Why should we depend on imports to feed our people? But you can talk about rice. Now you can talk about tomatoes and onions and pepper. And I hear we even import plantain from Cote d'Ivoire and contomere from Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, sometimes when I hear these things, I feel that, look, so why do we have all these people that we are spending lots and lots of money on them that do nothing? For 8 years, we preached planting from food and jobs. We didn't get the food, we didn't get the jobs, but the money was spent. And that is why I don't accept the over exaggeration of the impact of global shocks on our economy. Right now, we all know what is coming from the US. Complete disruption of the global economy. We know it. We are aware of it. I think only this week, the US has imposed different levels of um, uh, import duties on many African countries. I think Ghana, our rate is 10%, one of the lowest. But that means the death of AGOA. Now, we have depended on AGOA for all these years. And we have never even thought one day of diversifying our export location. So now AGOA is dead. What next? Now AGOA is dead. What next? So we don't even do scenario planning in this country. What if this happens? What do we do? The things that the private sector company will do literally every 6 months. Ask very hard questions about what will happen if the unexpected should happen. So we live our lives as nothing would happen, and then we get up one morning, there's something happens, and we say, we throw our arms in the sky. I think we just have to do better than that. Because right now, we should have people sitting down and strategically thinking about the global shifts that they are taking on. Who are going to be our trade partners in the next 10, 15 years? Who are going to be our trade partners in the next 5 years? Who is going to, if assuming today or tomorrow, the US says, I'm pulling out of IMF, I'm pulling out of World Bank, what happens? So why are we not just thinking? Why are we not just pulling people together to say, look, you are a strategic group. Tell us. And let us begin to think about the unthinkable. But we have no global shocks forever. And I'll go back as a student, I knew that when cocoa prices drop, Ghana is in trouble. We have known when oil prices go down, we are in trouble. When it goes up, we are in trouble. And yet we never plan for when it will go down and but we are happy. We always say we are dependent on commodities for export. I've had it for 80, 60 years. We've done nothing. Now, manufacturing sector in Ghana is less than what it was during Nkrumah's time. Manufacturing, which will give you employment, will give you revenue, will give you export revenue, will support government in the provision of social infrastructure. Even that we are killing it. And we just can't understand we can't understand why we are not doing well. So let me just hazard some of the things that we can do. And let me say, this is a very big subject. And I cannot pretend to have all the answers. Definitely, I don't have. But I will just try. The first one I can think about is embedding fiscal discipline and responsibility. Look, if you go back to Nkrumah's time, and I've taken time to look at every change of government we have had in this country. Every time, two reasons are given: economic mismanagement and corruption. Every time, whether it is military or civilian, those two reasons are given for the reasons why our economies are not doing well. So if we know that we don't manage our fiscal properly, we don't have fiscal prudence, we don't have fiscal discipline? Why do we continue to be indisciplined when it comes to our fiscal management? Why? Why can't we? And if that is what is happening, what don't we ask the question, what should we do to stop this? But we continue and we are happy. And I remember, I think in 2000, before the election, having a discussion, a big discussion during President Kufuor's time about Ghana becoming a middle-income economy. And I sat down there in this place, and I just was laughing. And I just asked the fund rep at the time, are you using statistics to make Ghana a middle-income economy, or you have been out there and you have seen the quality of life that people are living, that it actually merits a middle-income economy? And at the time, they were praising Ghana. Immediately, the party lost election in January. The same people declared Ghana bankrupt. If you don't believe me, go and check. Ghana was bankrupt after Kufuor left office. Every time one government is changed, the country is bankrupt. So from fiscal indiscipline and irresponsibility. So it's been with us for a very long time. For a very, very long time. And we are happy. Now you go to the ministries everywhere. Everybody, the word that you often hear is donors, development partners, donors, development partners. So the IMF comes in, and then we say they are imposing conditionalities. But do you need somebody to tell you to be disciplined? When your child is indisciplined at home, what do you do? And yet, we carry on and on and on with fiscal indiscipline. And then when we are insolvent, we run to the fund. So my question is, how long? How long should we carry on like this? So I think that for me, the very first thing that we need to do is to make sure that when we talk about democracy, it is not about going to cast your vote and a party winning election. It's about good governance, governing the country responsibly in a way that does not drive this country into insolvency again. And we must strengthen our institutions. Obama visited here and said, we don't need strong men. What we need are strong institutions. But literally, all our state institutions today are weak, totally, completely weak. But you cannot run a country with weak institutions. You just cannot. You can't. I mean, we were here just before the election when this country was completely broke. People have gone to parliament to seek tax exemptions of over $350 million. Right? And we set up so-called revenue what? Revenue, they're supposed to, revenue assurance intermediaries. Private sector companies set between GRA and a taxpayer. And we had one in energy, we have one in GRA, we have one in, and I said, so if we build the capacity in GRA, they can't do this, that we need to set up some funny revenue assurance institution in between and pay them a lot of money, supposedly to assure us of the revenue we are getting. And at the same time, quarter after quarter after quarter, we are saying We are not collecting enough revenue. So those people we are paying, what are they doing? So we need to be careful about the way we resource our institutions and just make sure that they perform their mandate. Because if the institutions don't work, we'll have corruption. If they don't work, the legal framework will break down. The regulatory breakdown will break down. Because the people who are supposed to make sure that those institutions work are compromised. I always wonder, and sitting here, I worry. Take Cocoa Board. Look at how much money they lost last year. Cote d'Ivoire doesn't have a cocoa marketing board. They produced 2.2 million tons of cocoa last year. We produced less than 500,000 tons from 1.2 million tons before. So my question is, the institution called Cocoa Board, they serving the best interest because we are in the same zone, the same climatic zone we are. We cannot claim that the climate change is different in Ghana than it is. But of course, we have galamsey, which affect our cocoa production. But who is promoting galamsey? Is it me or the very people that we have elected to come and govern our country? They decide that they will use the power we have given them to destroy our rivers just so that they can make money. So also need to, now that we have made everybody poor, we have to make sure that we expand our social protection programs. And of course, one of the reasons why the institutions are weak and everybody does what they like is that, and we don't have strong mechanisms to monitor the things that people do. But for me, even that is not that critical. It is what happens after we found breaches in the administration of governance in this country. When people breach the law, when we catch people stealing our money, what do we do? Immediately, it is politicized. If it is during one party's tenure, everybody in the opposition would immediately make it a political issue. So we wouldn't even allow justice to be done properly. But let me say this. If we are not going to punish wrongdoing, if we are not going to punish people who loot our resources, if we are not going to punish people who destroy this country, we will not have a country. And I must say that I respect South African institutions. I respect them because they work. They truly, truly work. To the extent that they can put presidents before court. I can never imagine in Ghana a minister being put before court and people not amassing at the court to go and deal with the judge who is handling the case. That's not the way we can build our country. So let me just, because of time, take a little bit of time and look at what the realities are. The reality is that resetting Ghana is not going to be easy at all. I can tell you there are many deep-seated systemic challenges, like the fact that those who are benefiting from the system today will not give up easily. Why should they? Because I'm benefiting from it, then you come and tell me I'm going to reset it and stop you from making money. It's not going to happen that easily. And I'm really happy that the president has taken on this challenge. And I'm saying all of us must support him and support the idea. Because he can't fight this battle alone. There's no way one man can fight this battle. But it will require a major mindset change of everybody who is involved in the governance of this country, whether in the other majority party or minority party, or whether you don't belong to anybody at all, any party at all, whether you are an ordinary citizen, or whether you are a young man or an older person, we all have to make sure that the way we have managed the country in the past has not served our best interest. I feel better today, and I can say it that I felt better 10, 15, 20 years ago than I feel today. Why? Because everything that I was used to doing is broken down today. And we just can't, as a nation, and don't forget, we, since 1960, there have been 5 different generations. Now there's a new generation called the AI generation. They have no patience for anybody because they are very enlightened. They have the technology at their fingertips. So they can see everything going on, everything everywhere in the world, just by the touch of the button. So there are people you can't cheat, you can't lie to. They can find out the truth as you speak the lies. So it's a reality we have to understand. So we need to switch away from our electoral rhetoric to governance reality. Because if we think that merely winning a landslide election is enough for the people, we are fooling ourselves. It's just not true. Because the expectations are very, very high out there. And let me say it again. People expect the moon because they have suffered deprivation for far too long. And I meet many people, many young people, uh, who are so frustrated. And every time I speak to them, all you get is, we just want to leave. And these are highly qualified, highly skilled professionals. They just want to leave this country. And yet, my time, I chose to live. I wanted to live in Ghana. I like to live in Ghana. So why is it that the youth of today just packing and leaving? So what is also understand that electoral success is not necessarily democracy. As I've explained, democracy means more than being successful at election. Democracy means delivering to the people who elected you into office what they want and what you promise to give them. That's it. A government for the people, for the interest of the people. So I do hope that because we are researching, we are not going to find large sums of money in people's homes under their beds and the rest of it. I think sometime early this week or last week, I heard that we ECG ordered 3,000 plus containers of cables. My first question was, we have companies in Ghana manufacturing cables. So why do we, first of all, have to use the foreign exchange that we don't have to import cables? Second, why have we forgotten that we are giving by importing, we are creating employment in other people's countries and denying the companies in Ghana the opportunity to employ more people? We are people who are lining up every day saying we don't have jobs. And yet, we choose to import cables that can be produced here in Ghana. And to make matters worse, we get up one morning and over 1,000 of the containers of those cables are missing. And I asked the question. A container is not a matchbox. A matchbox you can put in your pocket and walk out of the port. It's a huge thing. It has to be on a truck. And 1,000 plus of them were driven out of the port with no questions asked. We just can't run this country like that and believe that we can build a different country. We just have to change our attitude. Whoever made it possible for those containers to leave the port must understand that he's undermining the drive to reset Ghana because he's protecting a private interest, right? What he's doing is saying, I don't want ECG, which is a government institution, to have access to this unless there was a collusion, which I don't know, but I cannot understand why all the security at the port was there, and yet these containers left the port. Now we have to spend money to go and look for the containers, money that can be used for something else. I think we don't have much time left, so maybe let me go through quickly. I've talked about fiscal discipline, but let me make one point. Today, there's a lot of course, one of our biggest issues in Ghana is corruption everywhere because there's far too much human intervention in all our processes. Now we can leverage technology, digitize our processes, and significantly reduce the incidence of corruption. Because corruption has been grafted into our skills. It becomes systemic. It becomes structural. It's everywhere. And fighting it isn't going to be easy, but technology can help. So let me stop here and let me give the people online the opportunity to make comments or ask questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Yamson, for the insightful presentation. One thing that I am happy about is the fact that it's going to be difficult to reset Ghana, but it's possible with dedication. So yeah, I'll take the very first question from okay. So it says, what is the first thing that we should do as young people, seeing and living under the conditions you have aptly enumerated? We believe in Ghana, but the situations are not conducive enough. How should we navigate through these times?
First of all, let me say that yes, the situation in Ghana is tough. But I said, if you listen to me, the reality is that we are in a difficult situation. And it is not going to be easy to change it tomorrow. But all of us, and I'm saying, for instance, as young people, you should not tolerate any act of corruption. How many young people are prepared to stand up and say, I have seen this, I don't like it, it's not in the national interest, and I'm going to stand up. Because we will always say, Minamenko can. But Minamenko doesn't build the country. I have said to many people, be patient. But I also know that when you get up in the morning, you must eat. You must find money to feed yourself. You should find a place to sleep. You should have work to do. So patience doesn't solve those problems immediately. But many countries have gone through those difficult portions. What we need to insist on as young people, that those that we have put in office do what we believe is in the best interest of this country. Now, often we worship our leaders. We do, and yet they are there to serve us. I go to my village, Mpiaba, and everybody is trooping to their MP's house. Perhaps the 10th, the 20th, they are very happy. I mean, you should ask the MP, well, since you have been in Parliament, what have you done for us? You've been there 8 years. What did you do for us? 4 years. What have you done for us? You are coming to ask for our votes again. For what reason? Tell us why we should vote for you. But what do we see? Just before election, the MP gives everybody 50 seats, 100 seats, blah, 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 blah. But I was happy. The last election, some of the people stood up and rejected what people were going to give them to influence them. So I don't have an answer for you in the short term, but I can say for sure that, and it's a big but, if the government says that's what they say they will do, then we must see improvement in the shortest possible time. But we are the ones who must insist and ensure that they do what they say they do. And we should not tolerate anything that we believe. Because if you are coming to reset Ghana, it also means that you won't be corrupt. Because you are going after people who you say have looted this country. So you should not loot. So if any of these people should loot, then we, Ghanaians, must stand up and say, you have deceived us. So I agree with you. The short term is going to be tough, difficult, sometimes very frustrating, but we need time and we need patience. But my advice to people in leadership is that you have raised expectations of Ghanaians and you must deliver and not fail them.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So you can send in your questions, your comments in the chat. And if you want to talk, you can raise your hand so that we will allow you to do that. But okay, so you mentioned in your submissions that we should all support. But I think that's the first question that came was more towards as individuals and young people, how we can also contribute to help. But as businesses, how do you think businesses can also come in to help in this resetting agenda?
You see, the private sector will think differently. But if you are going to invest your money, first of all, you have to make sure that the environment is right, and then you make a good return. And I have said for many, many years that Ghana competes for investment. Ghana is no special than any other country in the world. So if I have $1 million to invest, and I scan the world, and I'll put my money to where I'll be treated fairly, where I I can trust the consistency of policies, and where the legal system, the regulatory system is predictable, right? So as we sit here, we the rating that we have from the rating agencies, no investor in his right sense will come and put his money in Ghana. So we need an upgrade. But one thing that I can say for Ghana is that there is a lot of goodwill for this country. You see, we are so lucky as a country that if we had managed our economies prudently, we will be more than a Malaysia. There's a lot of goodwill out there, but nobody's going to put their money in a country which is bankrupt. We can pay our debt. We even chose to make our own people poor in their own currency. You invest your own money, cedis, in government bonds. Government said, I won't pay. I will pay you on my own terms. Right? So you, the Ghanaian, you don't want to put your money in the bank, but you want a foreigner to place their money here. No, we have to change that. If we change that, if we behave well, if the fiscal and the monetary policy begins to show the right direction, and we get even the slightest upgrade, you can see a major change in investor confidence and interest in this economy. Then the young men will begin to find jobs. So there's a lot of responsibility on government to make sure that we get that upgrade as quickly as.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so there's another one here. It says, I have personally approached my people, well, the people we have put in authority with great technological strategies like e-citizen and digital tolling system. Yet there is no response. We cannot even meet them to present our documents to as well. What should we do?
Well, I think that as a business person, you must always also understand that there are obstacles in everything that you do. Don't forget that 3 months in office, some of the people you are put in office are now finding their feet. Some of them don't even have the resources and the time because there are so many things that have to be done in the next 3, 6 months. So while I sympathize with you, I would say that it should persist. Because if you know their office, you should go there and make appointment and and insist that we have an appointment and go and meet whoever you want to meet. I say to people that when you operate in a culture, you must understand that culture. We have a culture where any Ghanaian in a senior position, when they get something from the WhatsApp or email or whatever, they are not likely even to read it. They want you to come because they feel very big. But that is a part of our culture. I'm not saying it is good culture. What I'm saying is that don't give up because you have tried once and twice and you haven't got it. That right? I always say that Branson, who owns Virgin, he went bankrupt, I think, 19 or so times. So you should also understand persistence if you're a businessman. And you never, never, ever give up until you have got what you want.
Okay, thank you very much. There is also another question from Alfred. He says Ghana has seen many governments with strong stats that later stall. What specific safeguards are we putting in place to ensure we don't repeat past failures and maintain the stats momentum? many projects are finished because they wait till almost the election year?
You know, one of the lessons I think we haven't learned as a country, and definitely our leaders haven't learned, is that we don't learn from our own history, neither do we learn from the history of other countries. There's so much history in Ghana and there's so much history in Africa. Who should tell us that there are certain things we shouldn't do? And that there are things that if we do, will break our countries down. We know that if we borrow in excess of our capacity to service, we will go bankrupt. We've gone bankrupt 17 times. So do we have to be told what we shouldn't do? No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. And that is why I think that civil society organizations, particularly those who are in the anti-corruption camp, we should speak. We must never stop talking until we are heard and until our leaders decide to do what is right. But there's so much history. We know it. I mean, we can write books. And for me, we've got to a time when the talking has should come to an end. Now we must act and we must deliver. Anybody who comes, so they stand up and preach to you. You should say to the president, what I want to see is action and results. I don't want to be preached to again. But there's nothing that anybody is going to say to anybody in Ghana that we haven't heard before.
Okay. You can send in your questions. We have a few minutes to end the session. If you have any further questions, you can send in. If you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand and then do that as well.
Okay, then I think you can speak now.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I
Also
didn't know I
there
was on mute. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to say something, and I appreciate the your presentation and a long list of issues and also the possible solutions. I think that one of the main issues of this country is that we have not been really good at determining our priorities properly
yeah.
and consistency in following the priorities.
Yeah.
I have difficulty, if I honestly, if I listen to you, I get very discouraged. Not because of you, but because of the long list of problems that we have. So my question will be exactly which should be the priorities going forward in the next 4 years?
Then thank you very much. And let me apologize if I have not inspired you. I agree. I agree very well with you that we just don't prioritize well enough. I have many years ago, I had the occasion of sitting through a discussion, and a very major discussion, and when the presentation was made, I realized they have over 1,000 policy actions. And I said, I mean, how long are you going to execute all these policy actions, and how well can you execute these policy actions? We need to focus on 4 or 5 most critical things that will make the biggest changes in this country. That's what we need to do. Now, if you read, and typical, you take a budget statement and you just count. We shall, we will, we shall, we will, we shall, we will. And I can tell you, you get many. I always say that, and of course, maybe because of my private sector background, if you come and tell me that in a year, you are going to deliver more than 5 strategic uh, 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 actions, I would say you will not, you can't, because to put, I mean, first of all, the resources behind it that you require to deliver that are going to be enormous, because we have destroyed this country to a level where literally in every sector you need lots of investment. So first of all, what I would like to see is for government to say, we as government, we will focus on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas, which we believe we have the competence, we have the skills, we have the wherewithal, the funding, and everything to do. Then invite the private sector and direct them to where you, the government, believe your priorities are. Either for them to go in alone or in partnership with government. So we can prioritize. Sector by sector, we can. But I agree with you entirely that what we don't do well in this country is that we focus on far too many things. And the point that you made, either you or somebody made, what do? We start a budget, we start a year or a medium-term program. We plan to do so many things, knowing very well that we can't even finish one. So you drive around this country and you come across many unfinished projects. Many unfinished projects. We don't focus. We don't prioritize. And I agree with you entirely that it's important that as a country, we just have to prioritize. You know, I say often, government has limited, government can only use funds that the GRA can collect, plus what the donors can give you, right? And now that donor funds are drying up, you are not going to put your future in the hands of donors. Or now they're giving them a fanciful name, development partners. So you're not going to put your hands in there. We should understand by ourselves what are our priorities. And we can even say, where can we, I mean, Europe needs energy. Europe needs energy. Europe doesn't want to rely on Russia for energy. So is it not a strategic area where we can focus our minds and say, what energy can we develop in Ghana, sell to Europe, make a lot of money, and you can get European funds to support it. So, and not only that we are not, we don't prioritize, we are not also strategic. You know, we just behave as if we have limitless capacity. So we want to do everything. We end up doing nothing because we haven't prioritized. Not only have we not prioritized, we haven't also thought strategically about the things we need to do. And I think that those things need to uh, uh, be understood, and we need to change pattern. And again, let me say, I hope that when we talk about resetting Ghana, we will reset now, be more strategic, and be and prioritizing better going into the future. Because what do we do? Every sector brings what they want to do, and we put them together and we call them a budget. I'm saying that cannot be. That isn't. And even in the area of uh, deciding what government should do, what government should ask, expect the private sector to do. One, go and read 1961, 1962, 63, 64, 65 budget. Even the so-called socialist Nkrumah had clear role for the private sector to play with clear targets. Clear targets. You can go and read it. Now we say we are free economy and we don't even have room for the private sector. We don't know what the private sector should do either on their own, because there's a lot. There's a lot more money sitting with the private sector than with government. So what is the fear? What's the reluctance in opening up for private sector to participate? Yeah. And if you go to LPS in Tema, private sector, go and see what the private sector can do, fully funded by the private sector. So the private sector can do a lot of things, and we can move faster if we open up the economy for private sector participation. So thank you, Della, for that rather very great question.
Okay, so
Yeah.
oh, sorry,
So,
Della, you can go ahead.
yeah, sorry, Doc, I fully agree with you. I fully agree with the view that you just said. Let me just give one simple example. In terms of priorities, it is good for a country to decide which sectors can act as the engine of growth.
Yes,
And so therefore focus on those areas.
exactly.
Let's take our natural resources, for instance. The total mismanagement of our natural resources is something that worries me. It is like there's no priority, there's no strategy.
Yeah,
We want to invest in mineral resources which are in the ground
yes,
or which are beneath ground, which require deep investment to extract, investment to process before you can even export to get revenue. I think that whole strategy is totally wrong, flawed. We should concentrate on those resources which are above ground, for which you do not need such deep investments.
yeah,
And so, therefore, you can easily, as it were, exploit them and gain revenue.
okay,
So, take for instance our oil. We go deep sea, 7 kilometers into the sea, have to dig so many kilometers under the sea to extract oil, when we all know that, fossil fuel has no future. That's one. Secondly, we do not have the technology to extract, so we have to import the technology and even the skills to be able to drill it. So we spend so much money trying to exploit those resources which are below ground or beneath ground, that in the long run, when we do extract them, we are not able to, or we do and export them, we are not able to even get the revenue to cover our costs. So, as it were, it's a fanciful thing that we have oil and we must extract it. but we haven't thought of ways in which we can do it, in which we can, reduce the expenditure and gain much more revenue from it. So, I mean, take the ports, for instance. We invest so much in the ports. I mean, I just went the table desk research, and I searched on the internet, how much have we invested in our ports, Takrady ports, for instance, the last 20 years. Doc, $20.8 billion. And then I went to see my mother in Takrady the last time, and I went to the port, and there was only one ship. So from 2000, we have been saying Ghana as the center of what a hub of West Africa. We were sitting down since 2000, and Ivory Coast has built a road from Abidjan to the north. Togo has built a road from Lomé to the north. So they just took over transport of the goods for the Francophone countries.
Yeah.
And we are spending 20.8 billion improving dredging the harbor in Takrady. It's an example of a non-strategic investment, which in the long run, although we have we can use it in the future, but the purpose for which it was done has not been met.
Yeah.
So these are some of the strategic disinvestment that we have done, which investment that we have done in the past, which hasn't helped this nation. And there are a lot of them that we can, mention. So seriously, we really need to come back to the question of what are the pillars of growth for the next 10 years and focus on those, know.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Do you have any?
Okay. Yes. So there is also a question here said that says, what is the impact of the US tariffs on our economy in the medium to long term? How can Ghana survive this trade war?
No, I don't have a ready answer as to what the 10% tax will mean. But again, going back to the point that the largest raised, this is a matter for strategic consideration. It's not just a matter of just people getting up and either condemning the U.S. or whatever. For me, it's if you ask me, I would say it is a strategic opportunity for countries in Africa to begin to think about their over-reliance on others for the development of their own countries. I was in China in August last year, and the Chinese will tell you that the best thing that happened to them were U.S. sanctions. But every time the U.S. sanctioned them, they found a way of doing the thing themselves. The U.S. stopped them from having access to this mineral, they found it in China. Something that they probably sometimes never even thought of doing, they then will put their minds to it and do it. So this is the time for strategic thinking. Not just about just talking and blah, blah, blah. No. I mean, it's an opportunity for me. If I was to put my private sector cap on, I would say, so the 10% tax, yes, let's even assume that it is 50% or 80%. What should we do to replace that export market? So it's a time for strategic thinking, and also the time for us to understand that we cannot forever live our lives in the hands of other people. Why? We have the same size land size as Malaysia. We have literally about the same size of population. Malaysians came here and took oil palm. They now have built a huge industry behind it. Today, Malaysia has something like 5 to 6 million hectares of land under oil palm cultivation. We don't even have 20,000 hectares under commercial oil palm production. So it's our fault. They took a strategic decision that they will build their economy behind oil palm. At that time, we were taught as young economists that monocrop economies could not survive. Malaysia proved them wrong. So we are not strategic in thinking. Just as he's saying, what are the 4 or 5 things that we need to select and say, this is what we are going to do to build, to drive our economic development and growth to the next 20, 30 years. That's what we should be doing. Everybody so agribusiness. Agribusiness with what? So everything in the street which the agriculture produce you are going to do. Agribusiness, even that one should be narrowed down. Okay. So my answer to you is very simple. We should not be worried about the imposition, but we should take it as an opportunity to strategically redefine our future. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much. So the very final question before we sign off on this session. What are some of the steps that can be taken to depoliticize key state institutions to ensure efficiency and accountability? Because politicizing things, work, and everything that needs to be done to ensure that the economy succeeds is one major thing that's affecting the economy. So what's my
You see, and I'm sure that there is a constitutional review going on now. And I know people say the issue is not the constitution, it's those who are applying the constitution. They are right. But it is also true that there are provisions in the constitution that make politicization possible. Because, and the South Africans found out after they set up the Zondo Commission that they needed to use parliamentary oversight to restrain or to restrict the influence the executive have on state institutions. In Ghana, the president literally appoints everybody. That makes it political immediately. So if the president has appointed you as the chairman of bodies, unless you have what we call strategic influencing skills, i.e., that you are somebody who can stand up for what you believe in, irrespective of who appointed you, the chances are that you are going to sing the tune of the person who appointed you. So we need to do something about the Constitution. It gives overwhelming power to the executive. That's the source of the politicization. If we can find a way of making our institutions, of insulating them from politics, they will function. Well, we have great people in this country. Okay? And sometimes it is also true that the people who are put in those institutions readily want to serve the interests of those who are put them there. They are not people who can stand on their own right and say, I am sorry, you can take your job. I don't want it. I will do what is right for this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Yamson, for a wonderful session. I am sure everyone on this session today is one way or the other taking something great away. Thank you very much for joining. We hope to see you in the next session. Thank you. Okay, but before we go, this session would also be on our Facebook page, that is Ishmael Yamson and Associates. So if you want a replay, you can go there and then have a replay of this very session. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye-bye.